Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. I am seriously pumped you're joining me today because we are going on an incredible journey. We're exploring exactly how we understand ancient history, and we're going to do it by moving from a completely fabricated modern hoax straight into some real, breathtaking human marvels, and finally, we'll look at the cutting-edge machine learning that is literally uncovering the past right beneath our feet. Okay, here's our roadmap for separating fact from fiction today. We'll start with unearthing the ancient past, take a quick look at the drop of stones hoax, explore some real ancient Chinese inventions, unravel the Nazca geoglyph mystery, and finally wrap up with how AI accelerates archaeological discovery. Let's get into it. All right, Section 1, Unearthing the Ancient Past. We humans have this deep, almost undeniable fascination with our history. We look to artifacts, objects made by humans, to basically act as physical connections to our ancestors. But here's the catch. Our intense desire for a good mystery, it kind of makes us vulnerable. Because as we're going to see today, sometimes a so-called item of historical interest is actually just a complete fabrication. Which brings us to Section 2, the Dropa Stones hoax. So the story goes a little something like this. A Chinese archaeologist allegedly stumbled upon caves acting as graveyards for these tiny beings with giant oval heads. And right alongside these bodies, 716 grooved stone discs. Now, according to the myth, a Chinese professor named Suma Nai translated the spiral grooves on these discs, and supposedly they told the story of the Dropa aliens crashing their spacecraft 12,000 years ago. So we gotta ask, did this actually happen? Are these genuine alien artifacts? Well, the short answer is no, absolutely not. The Dropa stones never even existed. There is literally zero archaeological record of them. And that discoverer, Professor Tsum Nui, it's a completely made-up name that doesn't even follow real Chinese naming conventions. Investigators actually tracked this entire elaborate myth back to its source, and get this, it started in a 1962 publication in a German magazine for vegetarians. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It is a 100% fabrication from start to finish. Okay, moving on to Section 3, Real Ancient Chinese Inventions. The thing is, we really don't need aliens or fake stones to find ancient marvels. The reality of actual human ingenuity coming out of ancient China is just breathtaking. Look at this breakdown. In war and tech, alongside gunpowder and the magnetic compass, they had a working seismograph way back in the 2nd century. This guy Zhang Heng created this elaborate bronze vessel with dragons and frogs that could literally detect the direction of an earthquake. Amazing, right? Then in daily life, they gave us paper, silk, alcohol, and noodles. And under flight, they were designing kites and even hang gliders centuries before anyone else even thought about it. This is the real magic of human history. Now, I want you to focus on that number right there, 4,000. That represents the age in years of the world's oldest known noodles. Archaeologists excavating a settlement at Lajia in China literally uncovered an overturned bowl of stringy millet noodles buried beneath 10 feet of earth. This totally shatters the myth that pasta is some relatively recent Italian or Arab invention. 4 millennia ago, our ancestors were already kicking back and enjoying a good bowl of noodles. Let's shift gears to Section 4, the Nazca geoglyph mystery. So traveling from ancient China all the way across the globe to the Nazca Pampa in Peru, we find these incredibly real, tangible ancient mysteries etched directly into the earth. Now, for decades, the world has known about the famous Nazca lines, right? Those massive drawings of animals you can see from an airplane. But these newly discovered relief-type figurative glyoglyphs, they're much smaller and way harder to spot. Etched into the desert by ancient peoples over 2 millennia ago, they depict these fascinating, almost eerie subjects. Things like humanoids and what appear to be decapitated heads. When we actually break down the data on these smaller relief-type geoglyphs, things get super interesting. We can clearly see they heavily feature human and domestic themes. Look at this. Over 33% are humanoids, nearly 33% are decapitated heads, and almost 15% are domesticated animals, like llamas. Only a tiny fraction, about 6.9%, are wild animals. This massive focus on human activity gives us a huge clue about their intimate, day-to-day purpose in ancient Nazca society. Contrasting these two types of art is absolutely crucial for understanding the Nazca Pampa. On one hand, you've got the famous line-type geoglyphs, giant, averaging like 90 meters long, mostly wild animals, and used by whole communities for large rituals. But on the other hand, you have our newly understood relief-type geoglyphs. These are small, maybe 9 meters across, depicting human motifs. And here's the real kicker. Researchers found these were designed for individuals or small groups to look at while walking along winding desert trails, probably to share information about human activities. Mapping these geoglyphs geographically really cements our understanding here. The massive line geoglyphs sit near formal geometric networks. Think of them as ancient public architecture for huge pilgrimages. But the small relief geoglyphs, they're scattered all along this informal, tangled meshwork of winding trails, sitting right within viewing distance, about 43 meters away on average. It's like a giant puzzle, and it shows us exactly how these ancient people physically and intimately interacted with their sacred art on a daily basis. And that leads us to our final part, Section 5, AI accelerates archaeological discovery. So how did we suddenly learn so much about these incredibly hard-to-spot geoglyphs after decades of them just hiding in plain sight? Well, the magic number is 303. In just 6 months of field surveys, researchers discovered 303 completely new figurative geoglyphs. To put that into perspective, it took humans almost an entire century of grueling surveying to find the first 430. So nearly doubling the known amount of these geoglyphs in just half a year? That is an astonishing feat. And it was made possible by a real game changer: artificial intelligence. Here's exactly how they pulled this off. Step 1. Scientists took high-resolution aerial imagery of the desert and trained an AI model using a tiny sample of the geoglyphs they already knew about. Step 2. The AI scanned that vast desert and basically generated a continuous probability map, highlighting areas that might hold a geoglyph. Step 3. Human archaeologists screened those AI suggestions to weed out the false positives. And finally, Step 4, and this is absolutely vital. They went out on foot for ground truthing to actually confirm the finds. By letting AI do the heavy lifting of the visual search, they literally saved thousands of labor hours. We are literally standing at the edge of an archaeological revolution. And this isn't just about finding ancient art faster. It's way more urgent than that. Accidental destruction and severe climate change, like extreme weather and devastating flash floods, pose massive, immediate threats to the Nazca Pampa today. So, rapidly tracking and mapping these sites with AI, it allows us to actively protect our fragile cultural heritage before it's washed away forever. We started this explainer by debunking fake stones from a vegetarian magazine, and we're ending by looking at an AI mapping ancient trails in the Peruvian desert. Pretty wild ride, right? I want to leave you with this final thought. As our modern cutting-edge machines learn to read the ancient Earth, what other breathtaking marvels are just waiting right beneath the surface for us to uncover? Thanks so much for hanging out and exploring with me today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.